ఆనందమానందమానందమయము ఆనందమానందమానందమయము ఆనంద నిలయాన శ్రీ శ్రీనివాస ఇలపై వైకుంఠమిది ఈ కంట కందును కైవల్యమిది ఇలపై వైకుంఠమిది ఆ తేరు పైన శ్రీదేవి తోడ భూదేవితో గూడి నీ ఉండు వేళ ఆ తేరు పైన శ్రీదేవి తోడ భూదేవితో గూడి నీ ఉండు వేళ బ్రహ్మాదులరుగో నిలచేరు స్వామి బ్రహ్మాదులరుగో నిలచేరు స్వామి ఈ తేరు మేమంత నడిపే వేళ ఈ తేరు మేమంత నడిపే వేళ ఇలపై వైకుంఠమిది ఈ కంట కందును కైవల్యమిది ఇలపై వైకుంఠమిది ఆవేయి దీపాల వెలుగుల్లో వెలిగే ఆ స్వర్ణడోలిలో అందాల కేళిలు ఆవేయి దీపాల వెలుగుల్లో వెలిగే ఆ స్వర్ణడోలిలో అందాల కేళిలో మా అమ్మలిద్దరూ జతగూడి ఊగా మా అమ్మలిద్దరూ జతగూడి ఊగా అపురూపమపురూపమందాల రాయ అపురూపమపురూపమందాల రాయ ఇలపై వైకుంఠమిది ఈ కంట కందును కైవల్యమిది ఇలపై వైకుంఠమిది ఆంజనేయుని పైన ఆ హంస పైన పొన్న చెట్టు మీద ప్రభల శోభల పైన ఆంజనేయుని పైన ఆ హంస పైన పొన్న చెట్టు మీద ప్రభల శోభల పైన తిరువీధి వెంట నీ గరుడ సేవ తిరువీధి వెంట నీ గరుడ సేవ నా స్వామి నా దేవ అపురూపమయ్యా నా స్వామి నా దేవ అపురూపమయ్యా ఇలపై వైకుంఠమిది ఈ కంట కందును కైవల్యమిది ఇలపై వైకుంఠమిదియే.
Welcome everyone. We're really excited about today's event. The Sri Venkateswara Temple of North Carolina is dedicated to serving the North Carolina community by providing spiritual, religious, and cultural programs to all the members of our community. The SV Temple started as a community-based collaborative effort to serve the community's religious needs. In July 1998, the initial 2.8 acres of land were acquired in the town of Cary to build the temple. In January of 1999, the Bhumi Puja of the Balalaya temple, which is now the existing Shiva temple, was conducted, and the first iteration of the temple was established with the goal of expanding to a full-fledged temple which follows the Vedic Shastras. In January of 2005, the site plans for the existing Srivari temple were approved by the town of Cary. Following the approval of the plans, in May of 2005, the Bhumi Puja for the current temple was performed. In August of 2007, the temple construction began and was completed with full Indianization in April 2009. On May 28, 2009, the Prana Pratishtha was performed, signifying the establishment of the divine energy with the presiding deities. The Sri Venkateswara Temple of North Carolina complex consists of Sri Venkateswara, Padmavati, Godadevi, Sudarshana, Narsimha, Garuda, Vishuksena, and Utsava Vigrahas of Namalvar Ramanujacharya. Later, Shiva, Parvati, and Sri Ganapati, the Navagrahas, Ayyappa, and the Hanuman Sannidhis were built. According to the Shastras, the temple is not fully complete until the Rajagopuram is built. On May 16th of this year, 2020, the Bhumi Puja for the Rajagopuram was conducted, and soon after, the Shankustapana for the Rajagopuram was performed. The SV Temple's goal is to build the Rajagopuram before the 12th Brahmotsavam, which is scheduled to happen in May 2021. We need the help of the community by donating a brick to accomplish this. It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be involved in building a temple that follows the rules of the Agama Sasthras. We request you donate and be a part of this wonderful initiative. It is an honor for our community to have a complete and divine temple. We hope you enjoy today's event, and please think about donating.
जय श्रीमन्नारायण लक्ष्मीनाथ समारंभाम नादयाम अनुमत्यमाम अस्मदाचार्य पर्यन्ताम वंदे गुरु परंपराम. On behalf of SVTNC management, we would like to welcome Sri Dushyanth Sridhar. Sri Dushyanth Sridhar is well known Upanyasakar of Sanatana Dharma. He has delivered number of lectures in English and Tamil. Today is a Garuda Panchami. On the special day of Garuda Panchami, we are blessed to have Sri Dushyanth Sridhar in our presence. He will be delivering a lecture on Garuda. I hope you all will enjoy it. Please welcome Sri Dushyanth Sridhar.
गरुडमखिल वेदनीडाधिरूढं द्विषत्पीडनोत्कण्ठिताकुण्ठवैकुण्ठपीठीकृतस्कन्धमीडे स्वनीडागतिप्रीतरुद्र सुकीर्तिस्तना भोगगाढोपगूढ स्फुरत्कण्टकव्रातवेदं यथा वेपमानद्विजिह्वाधिपाकल्पविष्भार्यमाणस्फटावाटिकारत्नरोचिश्छटा राजिनी राजितं कान्तिकल्लोलिनि राजितम्. जय गरुड सुपर्ण गर्वीकराहार देवाधिपाहार हारिन्दिवौकस्पति क्षिप्तदम्भोळिधाराकिणा कल्पकल्पान्तवातूल कल्पोदयानल्पवीरायितोद्यच्चमत्कार दैत्यारि चैत्रध्वजारोह निर्धारितोत्कर्ष सङ्कर्षणाद्मङ्गरुत्मन्मरुत्पञ्चकाधीश सत्यादिमूर्तेन कश्चित् समस्ते नमस्ते पुनस्ते नमः. नम इदमजः च पर्याय पर्याय निर्यात पक्षानिला स्फालनोद्वेलपाथोऽधिवीची च पेटाहता गाधपाताळभङ्कार संकृतनागेन्द्र पीडा श्रेणी भावभास्वन्नख श्रेणये चण्डतुण्डाय नृत्यद्भुजङ्ग ब्रुवे वज्रिणे दंशया तुभ्यमध्यात्मविद्या विधेया विधेया भवद्दास्यमापादयेथादयेथाश्च मे मनुरनुगत पक्षिवक्त्र स्फुरत्तारकस्तावकश्चित्रभानुप्रिय शेखरस्त्रायतां न स्त्रिवर्गापवर्ग प्रसूतिः परं व्योमधामन्मल द्वेषितर्पज्वल ज्वालकिल्य प्रतिज्ञावतीर्ण स्थिरां तत्त्वबुद्धिं परां भक्तिदेनुं जगन्मूलकल्दे मुकुन्दे महानन्ददोघ्रीं दधीथा मुधा कामहीनाम् अहीना महीनातक
रामानुजदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वयभट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसार कुलशेखर योगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणुपरकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् नमः पन्नगनद्धाय वैकुण्ठवशवर्तिने श्रुतिसिन्धुसुधोत्पादमन्दराय गरुत्मते. Today is a very, very auspicious day. It is called Garuda Panchami, a day that we have specially dedicated to commemorate the grace and benevolence of Lord Garuda. Like how we have a Mother's Day for the mother, of course, we need to love her for her selfless affection that she showers on us throughout the year till the last breath. But we have kind of found a day for her. It's the Mother's Day, the Father's Day, the Grandparents' Day, a Thanksgiving Day. So here we have the Garuda's Day, and it's called Garuda Panchami. On this auspicious occasion, at the behest of the very respected holy Sri Venkateswara Swami temple at Cary, North Carolina, I'm very, very happy to address you all through this virtual platform. Of course, with all your blessings and wishes, I have had the opportunity to visit Cary, and I was hosted by Sriman Srini Rajagopalan and family, and the family and all the volunteers and the priests of the temple. I've visited twice. I visited in 2016 and then in 2018. Both the times I have been a recipient of your selfless love. I'm sure, even before I begin with this discourse, that with all our prayers and the charity that we have done, I'm sure we will all overcome the crisis that just not the US, the States, Europe, Asia, in particular India, and many, many other countries are undergoing. So let's pray that we are back to our very own selves, but with very, very high precautions and sincere care for the nature. So let Garuda bless us all. I have had the opportunity to address you all in person, now in the virtual platform. And I am also very happy to note that to this very famous temple of Sri Venkateswara Swami in Cary, North Carolina, there is this RAJAGOPURAM initiative which has been commenced by the group of devotees, the board members and the volunteers. And I'm also sure that once in every 12 years, the Kumbhabhishekam is going to be performed. So the topic for this lecture today is going to be Garuda, the eternal devotee whose fervent devotion to the Lord is absolutely impeccable. Even before I get into Garuda, his role in our Puranas, I will briefly talk about what is a Gopuram. First of all, in Sanatana Dharma, which is Hinduism that the world knows of, in the religion Hinduism, temple worship is just not a custom that needs to be done once a week. More than the word worship, let's call it a collaboration. Because a temple in the yesterdays, and probably even today, in the yesterdays it was a fulcrum, it was a point where people of multi-talents, singing, dancing, studying, reciting, they will all come together and meet up. It's a huge place where people gather and celebrate creation. No wonder, I'm sure a lot of you who would have visited India, who would have visited the very, very famous UNESCO sites, those sites which come under the Archaeological Survey of India, you might have noticed a lot of temples also carry motifs and sculptures and panels of what is Kama Shastra, how the man and the woman come together. So you might have seen such scenes as well, because we have never hidden. Hinduism has been very liberal. We call it Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. They are called the Purusharthas. So we have seen representations of all these Purusharthas in a temple. So a temple was just not meant for worship. Come once a week, worship and go. No. If that was the case where I have to meditate on the Lord, Sanatana Dharma, which is Hinduism, tells you that you can sit in your very place, wherever you are, whether you're in North Carolina or the West Coast, the East Coast, wherever you are, whether you're in India, whichever part of the world you are, you sit in your house, relax in your chair, close your eyes and meditate upon that one supreme almighty who is omniscient, omnipresent, sarvavyapi, sarvajna, sarvashakti. He is there everywhere. So Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism is very clear about that. Despite that, we as human beings, of course, in the US and largely in India, we've seen a lot of lockdowns. So when there are lockdowns, I hear people say, okay, I want to go out. I want to go to the temple where I keep visiting. That gives me solace. So to seek that solace, to seek that peace, you want to see others. You want to see devotees like you. You want to have a huge group so that you can discuss and you can debate about various topics. So a temple is meant for that. I'm sure I have spoken in your temple. So if speaking, delivering an upanyasam, a pravachanam, a harikatha is an art form, the temple has provided me space for that. I've seen plenty of videos where children dance in your temple. They present the classical Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi in your temple. So a temple is meant as a place where people get together and enjoy creation and the creator. When there is this celebration, you will always expect that the temple has a certain science behind its building. I cannot build anything and everything. So there needs to be a science, there needs to be a set of guidelines. That's where our Agama Sasthras come into picture. In Vaishnavism, which is a theology, we largely have a science, the Agama Shastram, which are primarily two in number. One is a Vaikhanasam, second is a Pancharatram. These are the two primary Agama Shastras that guide on how a temple needs to be built, what needs to be placed where, how it needs to be maintained, and what are the rituals that need to be performed. So you have a book, you have an Agama Shastra that is a science that guides you on all these steps. Based on these Agama Sasthras is where a temple is constructed. You have a sanctum sanctorum, which is called the Garbhagraham. Like how we were housed in our mother's womb, the Lord is so the Lord has put us in our mother's womb. So we put the Lord back into another womb because we tell him, you're omniscient, you're omnipresent, but I don't have the divine power to see your omniscience. The world is too huge. It's a vast expanse of the splendid sky. I just can't see it. So I'm going to house you in this sanctum sanctorum. Stay there. Garbhagraham. So when there is a Garbhagraham, we say that we need to keep ourselves, our bodies right part. So if you keep yourself like an Ardhanarishwara, the left and the right, as we go around the sanctum sanctorum, you might have noticed that the right side of your body is facing the Lord and the Garbhagraham. The right side is called as a Dakshina. Since you go around the sanctum sanctorum of the Lord in a certain way, by keeping your right to the Lord, it is called Pradakshina. So there is a Garbhagraham, you're doing a Pradakshina, and you might have come from different parts of your very own country. I'm sure there are devotees who are coming from the other states and other places in your very own state of North Carolina to have a darshan of the Lord in this beautiful temple. When they come, they need some water to drink. Let that be holy waters and let it have some spices. So that spice filled water, which is a holy water offered to the Lord, is called tirtham. That tirtham is offered to you thrice to drive away the fever or the pain that is caused by your own body, by your mind, by the animals and the creatures around you, or by through natural disasters. So Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, and Adi Daivika, these are the three kinds of worries that a person has. So the priest will offer you water thrice. There are positions where we feel, I have learned so much, I have read so much, but when I have to convey this, communicate this to my friends, I seem to forget. I don't get that word. So to keep our memory intact is when there is a ritual of keeping the shatari. You might have seen the priest keep a crown on your head. So you have a Garbhagraham, you have a Pradakshina that you do around, then you obtain the tirtham, you obtain the prasadam, you obtain the shatari, you pay your obeisances by giving your body an exercise. That is when you do namaskaram. You do sashtanga namaskaram. So all this is a part of the temple worship. Besides this, the temple has some festivals. It is called Utsavam. For an Utsavam to happen, there could be many. There's a Vasantotsavam, Masotsavam, Pakshotsavam, Samvatsarotsavam, Brahmotsavam, and so on. But to mark that there is an Utsavam happening in this temple, just imagine that there is a party happening in your house. Probably you may light up your entire house inside and outside. Likewise, when there is a function happening, a festival, an Utsavam happening in a temple, you may want to light up the temple. You do it. You have to tell the people who cross by that place that there is a function which is happening. So you have a huge flag post that is called Stambham, Dhwajastambham. So it has got a flag flying atop. That flag, when it is marked with the caricature of Garuda, it's called Garuda's Dhwajastambham, which tells the onlookers that there is a function, there is a festival, there is an Utsavam which is happening in the temple. Now, in those days, the kings also used to flaunt their patronizing of art and architecture through building beautiful gopurams. You might have noticed the very, very exquisite gopuram of Madurai, the very beautiful gopuram of Srirangam, the very, very beautiful gopuram of Srivilliputturu and Chidambaram. These are all temples I'm talking in the south of India. There are beautiful shikharas in the north of India as well. So when you look at these gopurams, they are filled with motifs and sculptures, and they add so much of beauty to the scene. So the kings used to construct gopurams to flaunt their patronizing and their skills in art and architecture. Second, gopurams were also built to tell the viewers and the passers by, the yatris, that there is a temple close by. If you want to take shelter, come here, because you never had skyscrapers maybe 200 years back. So every village, every town would have a temple with a gopuram, and the gopuram would be a huge tower, and people would see from a distance and would say, okay, now it's getting dark, let's go to the temple and take shelter. So it was also meant like a static GPS. A gopuram was also meant, some researchers say, when there are metal kalashams which are placed. So let's imagine that there are levels in the gopuram. So there could be 3, there could be 5, there could be 7, there could be 9, there could be 13. So those many tires and those many kalashams at the top. So the kalasham will have a metal, it's a metal which is used to make the kalasham. They say, some researchers say that it was like a lightning arrestor, lightning conductor. So it was meant to protect the temple premises from a severe lightning. That's what some researchers say. I'm sure there'll be a lot of young audience watching this. You could do a presentation or research on this to check if this was also a thought process that went into the heads of the kings who constructed gopurams. So gopuram is basically meant to complete the temple in its entirety. You might have noticed a lot of temples in India built in the times of the Cholas, the Cheras, the Pandyas, the Kakatiyas, the Hoysalas, the Vijayanagaras, the Rashtrakutas, the Chalukyas, but the temples were built but never had gopurams because gopuram was a task. And if you get that accomplished, the temple is all done. So now the temple of North Carolina, Venkateswara Swami temple of North Carolina and Cary is coming up with this gopuram project. And once the gopuram is constructed and Kumbhabhishekam, which is called Samprokshanam, is performed. So the holy waters, so you've been using pots filled with waters for days together where you've been reciting Vedic hymns. And these waters will be used to pour on the kalashams of the gopuram, which completes the Samprokshanam or the Kumbhabhishekam ceremony. And next it will be done the 12th year. So why this gap of 12 years? A lot of people give a variety of reasons. They say that a temple is like a guide. So a guide in our lives, spiritually in Sanskrit, is referred to as a guru. Guru in astrology parlance is Jupiter. And Jupiter takes 12 years to do a complete revolution around the sun. So to commemorate the Acharya, who's a guru, who's Brihaspati, who takes 12 years, the Kumbhabhishekam or the Samprokshanam is performed once in 12 years. Second, people say it is also to commemorate the 12 names of the Lord. Keshava, Narayana, Madhava, Govinda, Rishikesha, Damodara, Padmanabha, Madhusudana, Vamana, Trivikrama. So we recite the 12 names of the Lord. They are called Dvadasha Namas. So to commemorate that is the number 12, and so 12 years. People also say that there are 12 Rashis, so it is 12 years. People also say that when we look at the number 12, it has a lot of significance with Mahabharatam. So I'll just quote this verse. Samvatsaram dvadashama samahur jagatyah pado dvadashaivaksharani dvadashaha prakruto yajna ukto dvadashadityan kathayantai hadhiraha. So Samvatsaram dvadasha masamahu. Samvatsaram, 1 year, has 12 months. Jagati is the name of a meter. So when you compose Sanskrit poetry, you have rules. So there is a meter called Jagati, which has 12 letters. Jagati comes from the word Jagat, which means the universe. So you have a small replica of the universe in your temple, which is the temple and the gopuram. The gopuram is used for 12 years. The Kumbhabhishekam or the Samprokshanam is performed once in 12 years to denote the Jagati, which is the meter. Dvadashaha prakruto yajna uktaha. So there are smaller or minor havans or homams or yajnams which are 12 in number. Dvadasha adityan kathayanti hadhiraha. So there are 12 Adityas. So you've got 12 Adityas, Ekadasha Rudras, Ashtavasu and Ashwini Kumaras who are 2. So that is why Samprokshanam is performed once in 12 years. So this 12-year concept is something that the Agamas and our Acharyas, through our Sishtacharan culture, oral culture that we have been learning. Gopuram is a beautiful piece of art that adds value to the temple, and it has also had various properties or qualities in the past. And we should support this project of the Rajagopuram in North Carolina. Now, while I did tell you at the start that today is a very, very special occasion, it is the Garuda Panchami. On the day of Garuda Panchami, I will briefly talk about Garuda. So Garuda plays an essential role as a Nityatma. We are all Jivatmas. An Atma is the sentient matter housed in the material body. Jivatmas are of three types: Baddha, Mukta, Nitya. Baddha Jivatmas are those which are bound by karma. Mukta Jivatmas are those which have found a way to reach the Paramatma and resort to that, and then they reach the Lord, they become Muktatmas. Then we have the Nityatmas who are never bound by karma but always serve the Lord in his eternal abode called Vaikuntham, and they are called Nityatmas. Ananta, Garuda, Vishwaksena. Ananta is Adisesha, Garuda is Garuda, Vishwaksena is the commander-in-chief. So they are generally regarded as a Nityatmas. So Garuda is a Nityatma. Kantaste Purushottama Phanipatihi Shayyasanam Vahanam Vedatma Vihageshwaraha Yavanika Maya Jaganmohini Brahma Ishadi Surabrajaha Sadaitaha Twadda Sadasi Ganaha Shrirityevacha Namate Bhagavati Bhrumatkatham Stvam Vayam is a beautiful verse of Alavandar from Chatushloki where he says Vedatma Vihageshwaraha. Garuda doesn't sit only opposite the Lord, he sits in the four corners of the walls as Vihageshwara, Tarksha, Pannaga, Garuda, Suparna. So in Mahabharatam, we come across Garuda's Charitram, which has been beautifully put forth by Vyasa. He says that Kashyapa Prajapati was once married. Of course, we have various sets of wives that we have to deal with Kashyapa Prajapati. And don't ask me why he married so many. He didn't seek my permission. I would have advised him strictly not to, but he didn't seek my permission. What has happened has happened. Let's accept and then proceed or go ahead with the story. So Kashyapa Prajapati had many sets of wives. One set was Kadru and Vinata. They were the daughters of Daksha Prajapati. So they are also referred to as Dakshayani. So here Kadru was told that she will have many children because she desired many children. Whereas Vinata was said that she will have only two, and they laid eggs. Generally in science, in zoology, we understand that birds lay eggs. So our understanding is Kadru and Vinata, who were human beings, assumed with their yogic powers the role of creatures. Kadru became a snake while Vinata became a bird. And with Kashyapa Prajapati's determination in the yogic science too, they would have laid eggs. This is how we can come to a conclusion. Otherwise, understanding the story will become tough. So Kadru laid many eggs. From the eggs came the snakes. When Vinata realized that Kadru's children had orderly come out, she became very jealous. She broke open the first egg. It was a premature delivery. So the child which came out was a bird again. But that bird did not have anything developed below his thighs. Anuru, and he was red in nature because of the anger that his mother had caused this. So he became reddish in hue. So this reddish hue in person is called Aruna. So this Aruna, the son who was born of Vinata from the egg, cursed his mother. Yo hamevam kruto matastvaya lobha paritaya sharirena samagrena tasma dasi bhavishyasi. You will become a dasi. Mother, you will become a dasi. Hearing this, Vinata was upset that finally came a position where the child had to curse the mother. So she waited patiently for the second egg to incubate and hatch by itself. Meanwhile, Kadru and Vinata are said to have taken their clothes to a nearby lake, and while they were washing, they saw a white horse walk by the lake. So Kadru and Vinata had a bet. While Vinata said it was completely white, the horse was completely white, Kadru disagreed and said that it was a white horse with a black tail. Kadru wanted to put Vinata into the tough shoes. So that night, the bet was this, that whoever saw the horse the way they had described the next day, if Vinata had seen it as a white horse with a white tail, she wins. And if Kadru sees it as a white horse with a black tail, she wins. And whoever loses needs to become the slave of the other. So that night, it is said that Kadru called her sons, who were the snakes, she asked them, the little ones, to go and coil themselves around the hair in the horse's tail so that it seemed black from a distance. The sons refused. They said, "It's wrong, mother." Kadru got really angry and she said, "Now that you have disobeyed me, I curse you that one day many of you will leave or depart, or your descendants will die by falling into the fire which will be raised in a yajnam called Sarpasatram. Sarpasatre vartamane pavakova pradhakshyati janame jayasya rajarshe pandave yasya dhimataha." So these sons were a bit perplexed. They thought, wow, it's so sad that we have received a curse from the mother. Let's obey her words and cover the hairs in the horse's tail. They did so. The next day, while the horse went by the lake the same time, Kadru said, "I have won, Vinata, you're my slave." So this was not the right game that she played. She cheated. But Vinata was unaware. So she had to serve Kadru from then on. And from then on, she was a slave to her very own co-wife and sister. It did so happen later that the second egg that Vinata had hatched by itself, and from that came Garuda. And beautifully, Vedanta Deshika, a poet, preceptor, a dramatist, a playwright, a dietitian, a polyglot, a polymath who lived in the 13th century in the south of India, describes in his work Garuda Panchami, Vitrasid वीतिहोत्रं प्रथममधिगतेरन्तिके मन्दधाम्ना भूयस्तैनैव सार्धं भयभरतरलैर्वन्दितो देववृन्दैः कल्पान्तक्षोभदक्षं कथमपि कृपया संक्षिपन् धामचण्डं भित्वाण्डं निर्जिहानो भवभयमिह न खण्डयत् वण्डजेन्द्रः. So Vedanta Deshika says this little boy who's going to serve the Lord in a variety of positions emerged. And as this boy emerged later, as he was in his childhood, he realized that he was a slave to his aunt, just like his mother was. So the snakes, who were the sons of Kadru, would order Garuda to take them here and there. So they were troubling and tormenting Garuda. So at one point in time, Garuda felt very, very sad to have served them. So he went and asked his mother, "Why am I suffering like this?" She said, "See, both of us are slaves to Kadru. We can't even ask a question. We can't even reply." So here, Vedanta Deshika also intelligently puts the pastimes of Garuda, the childhood pranks that he played. So we have heard that of Rama, which is very, very abysmally very low, very, very negligible. In Krishna Avataram, we hear a lot of pastimes of Krishna. In Mahabharata, we speak of Garuda's pastimes, which is many, many times that more than of that of Krishna. So the poet says he would end up not playing the bowling, not with the ball that we know of, but he would end up playing with the constellations, the stars. It could be an exaggeration, undoubtedly, but look at the imagination what our poets had. Kshunakshoni dharani kshubita chaturakupa yad garunti trutyantara sarani sthaputita vibudhasthanaka nikshipeyuhu patala brahma saudhavadi vihitamuda vartananyasya martihi brahmandasyantarale brihati khagapater arbaka kriditani. So then he realized and went to his aunt Kadru and asked, "Mata, please relieve me and my mother of the slavery. What should we be doing?" She said, "Just get the pot of ambrosia, the nectar, called Amritam, lying in Amaravati, which is the capital of Indralokam. You get it from there." Realizing this, Garuda went to his mother Vinata and said, "Hey Mata, I am now leaving on this mission to get Amritam. Please bless me." Now, Vinata recites 2 verses in Mahabharatam, telling that these verses, when I have recited the mother, it will protect you, my dear son. You will be surprised to know that in India, whether it's the north or the south of India, till about 100 years, we had this culture where the mother would bless her son or daughter when they are leaving the house with these two verses. So I will recite these two verses. So those of you who have a notebook can note it down, or you can even record. I don't have a problem. I would request you all to recite it to your own children. Pakshau te marutah patu chandra suryau cha prishthatah shirascha patu vanhiste vasavaha sarvatastanum aham cha te sada putra shanti swasti parayana ihasina bhavishyami swasti kare rata sada arishtam vrajapanthanam Putra Karyartha Siddhaye. These verses are recited by Vinata to her son Garuda in Mahabharatam. But you'll be surprised, in Ramayana, Valmiki's Ramayana and Ayodhya Kandam, when Rama has to leave Ayodhya to go on an exile for 14 years upon the command of his father Dasharatha to the forest, he goes to the Shuddhatma, the Antapuram of his mother Kaushalya. Kaushalya is initially shocked. Later, she convinces and consoles herself, and that is when she tells, my dear son, now that you're going to the forest, I will bless you with those verses which were recited by Vinata while her son Garuda left to Swargaloka. So those verses are not mentioned in Ramayana. It is said that those verses which were recited, and those verses we get to know of them from Mahabharata. So Garuda goes, but then he's hungry. So he asks his father, what should I do? The father tells, you can eat anything that suits you. But imagine you should not end up eating people who have learnt a lot, the learned scholars. And if you end up eating them by mistake, you will have a burning sensation in your throat and you'll have to puke that out. You'll have to push that out. Don't digest them. So it does happen that there was a small habitat of hunters who were absolutely antisocial. They were cannibals. They would end up killing people who were passing by the forest. So to bring an end to them, Garuda flies with all his might. And he picks up the entire habitat and swallows them. There he feels a burning sensation and lets the person, a learned scholar, out alone. Kim nirghada kimarka paripatati diva kim simiddho vimaurvaha Kim swit kartaswaradre nanu viditamidam vyomavatya garutman asidatya jihirshyatya bhipatati haratya hatata ha amba iti alapodyukta bhilla kula jatara putappatu na patrinataha. So as he starts eating the people who lived in that habitat, the hunters, and as he crushes them between his beaks, the sound came, it seems. Asrik vyaptaira srigbir darupashamatrisha shatanisha tadamshtra koti lotat karoti vikatakatakatara vaghora vatara bindhyat sadham pulindya sapari parihrita brahmaka jikvagare udvelad bhillapalli nigarana karana parana karanamnaha. Then he comes to his father. Father, still my hunger has not been satiated. The father tells there is a tortoise and an elephant which has been playing initially, and then they've been fighting for years together, allowing no people around to use the lake waters. This elephant and tortoise have been fighting. You can get your hunger satiated by eating them both. So he takes the elephant by his one claw and the tortoise by the other. Imagine what mammoth size of a Garuda bird that Vyasa is trying to project in front of us. It may seem like animation, but I just can't help it. Maybe we have lost those species. They've all endangered, extinct. But I'm telling you, the canvas that Vyasa paints in front of us is mammoth. So here is Garuda taking an elephant and a tortoise. Imagine that size of Garuda. So as he flies, he wants to rest, and he rests on the branch of a tree. And as he sits on it, he realizes because of this excess weight, the branch starts breaking. And that's when Garuda bends to see that there were little rishis. They were very, very short people called Valakilyas, who would always do yoga by standing upside down. So they were hanging from the branch upside down, and there were more than 60,000 in numbers. So Garuda, he carries that branch for safety without letting that fall on the ground, so that it might save the lives of the Valakilyas. Vedanta Deshika describes the flight of that bird. Garudamakhila Veda Nida Dhirudam Vishat Pidanotkanthita Kuntha Vaikuntha Piti Krita Skandha Mide Swanida Gati Prita Rudra Sukirtistana Bhoga Gadhopaguda Spurat Kantakavrata Vedavyatha Vepamana Dvijikwadi Pakalpa Vishvaryamana Swatavatika Ratna Rochichata Rajini Rajitam Kanti Kalloli Nirajitam Jaya Garuda Suparna Darvi Karahara Devadhipahara Harindi Vaukaspati Kshipta Damboli Dhara Kina Kalpa Kalpantavatula Kalpodayanalpa Viradinodya Chamatkara Daityari Daitya Dvajaroha Nirdharitotkarsha Sankarshanatman Garutman Marut Panchakadisha Satyadimurtena Kaschit Samaste Punaste Namaha Namaidamajahatsa Paryaya Paryaya Niryata Pakshanila Swalanodvela Patoti Vichi Chapeta Hata Gadha Patala Bhankara Samkruddha Nagendra Pida Srini Bhava Swanna Kashrena Ye Chanda Tundaya Nrityak Bhujanga Bruve Vajrine Damshraya Tubhyam Adhyatma Vidya Videya Videya Bhavadasya Mapadayeta Dayestaschame Maruna Rugada Pakshi Bhaktra Spurattara Kastava Kaschitra Bhanu Priya Shekharastrayatam Nastri Varga Pavarga Prasuti Paravyoma Dhaman Baladveshi Darpa Jwaladvala Kilya Pratignya Batirna Sthiram Tattva Buddhim Param Bhakti Denum Jagan Mula Kande Mukunde Mahananda Dogri Mahina Mahina Ahina Antaka. So Garuda comes, and as he flies, saving the Valakilyas, allowing people to use that particular pond, because he has taken the two troublemakers, the elephant and the tortoise, from that position. The Valakilyas were surprised that there is one bird that can hold so many heavy objects together. Heavy in Sanskritam is Guru. Since he could carry those heavy objects, he should have been called Guruda, but Sanskrit grammar says that you'll have to reverse the sound, so it becomes a Garuda. Gurum bharam samasadyo dina yesha vihangamaha garudastu khagasreshtas tasma pannaga bhojanaha. So this incident of him carrying such heavy objects has again been beautifully put by Vedanta Deshika in Garuda Panchashat. He says, Sandra Krodhanubandhat Sarasi Janakamuke Padape Ganda Shaile Tundagre Kantarandre Tadanucha Jathare Nirvisesham Yuyutsu Avyadasmana Bhavyaditi Viditana Karashreni Damshtra Bhigato Jivagraham Grihitva Kamatakaratino Bhakshayan Pakshimallaha. So here the Valakilyas bless that you are going on a mission to obtain ambrosia, and in the past it is Indra who has once ridiculed us. Garuda, we bless you that you will be very successful. Like how we all wish that the Rajagopuram project should be successful by Garuda's grace. So Garuda was blessed. As he entered Amaravati, the Pattinam, the city of the Devas, the sons of Aditi, who were having Indra as their chief, Garuda barged in and he fought with all the Devas with so much of valor that people were wondering what kind of power he has got. Swachanda Swargi Brinda Prathamatama Mahotpata Nirghata Goraha. So, while this was a fight that happened, finally Indra had to use his Vajrayudham, an Ayudham, a weapon that was made from the bones of a rishi called Dadhichi. Well, Garuda with his might and power could have fought that Vajrayudham as well, but he wanted to respect that elderly rishi who sacrificed his life for this weapon to be made. So he put his palms together in Anjali Hastam. And as a sign of retreat, he took one feather from his wing and gave it. Since he gave the beautiful feather, he is called Suparna. And as he took the ambrosia pot, Indra said, see, you go to your place it on the earth, and ask your brothers, your half brothers, the snakes, to come and consume the amritam. I have no problem. But once you place the jar, you should not take it back, and you should just leave that place. I will take care of it from then on. Garuda said, it's a fair deal. I have been asked to give that ambrosia pot to my aunt and to her children. I'll do that. I'll give it. After that, you take care. And as he was emerging out, Amrita Kalasham is a pot filled with Amritam. As he held it and came out, if at all you come to India and you go to Sri Rangam, a small temple town in the south of India in Tamil Nadu, you will find a Sannidhi, a beautiful sanctum dedicated to Amrita Kalasha Garudan himself. And like how you have the Modak, the Korakattai for Pillayar, you have the Akkara Vadishil for Perumal, you have Palpayasam for Guruvayurappan, you have Trivadirai Kali for Shivan, you have Amrita Kalasham as a prasadam which is made for Garuda. It is like Kadubu, which is Modak or Korakattai, but slightly different because you use the ingredients used are slightly different. So whenever you have time, watch one of the cuisines, because everybody in this world has become a cook with the pandemic flying high. So everybody has some recipe or the other. Please look into the recipe of how to make Amrita Kalasham. And if it turns out good and you've served it to the Lord, say 1 or 2 for me and courier it to me. I'm going to taste it. Now, while he was carrying the Amrita Kalasham, he saw a resplendent figure in front of him with sesame flower-like nose, lotus-like eyes, a broad forehead with a tilakam, with a beautiful coral-like lips with teeth that resembled the moon that was broken into equal pieces, with a dimple that was cast in his beautiful chubby cheeks, with a kambugrivam, a corn-shaped neck, a broad chest with a kaustubam with Sri Mahalakshmi. It was none other than Narayana himself. So Garuda looked at Narayana and said, I have never seen somebody as handsome and as charming as you. I feel like giving you a boon. Look at his audacity. He says, the Lord, I will give you a boon. And the Lord said, I have never seen somebody show this kind of a valor. So I will give you a boon. So both of them promised to give one boon to each other. Garuda said, okay, let me give you the chance. Ask for your boon. The Lord said, you always need to stand below me. You have to carry me. Garuda said, Tathastu, I will do it. And the Lord asked Garuda, what boon do you want? Garuda said, I should be flying atop you. The Lord said, Tathastu. That is when Garuda realized, what is this Tathastu? How can I manage to be your vehicle as well as flying high? How can I do that? That is when the Lord said, you will be my vehicle below me. And in the flag that will always be fluttering high, either in my chariot or in my abode or in the temple in North Carolina, you will be there as the emblem. Garuda Dhvajatoshaya Gito Garuda Dandakaha Payudai Naga Pagai Kodiyanukku Pallandu Kurvane, tells Periyalvar in his Periyalvar Tirumozhi, a part of it which is Tirupallandu. So Garuda, he flies back. He places the Amrita Kalasham as promised on a beautiful bed made of darbha grass, which is very sharp. He placed and he told his half brothers, the snakes, you all may go take bath, come here and then consume this ambrosia. All the snakes went dutifully to the lake, bathed and came. By the time they came, Indra, who had told Garuda that you should not be bothered about the Amrita Kalasham, was very sincere. He came and took the pot and went away. As he took away the pot, small portions of the ambrosia said to have fallen on the bed of darbha grass. The snakes which came were very, very depressed and upset with Indra's act. Nevertheless, they saw these droplets of ambrosia, the Amritam, and they started licking them by their tongue. Because they started licking the ambrosia which was attached to the darbha grass being sharp is said to have split the snake's tongue in two. That's why we see snakes with the double tongue. because they consume the ambrosia. Ambrosia is known to help those portions of the body which are damaged. So since they were damaged, the snakes which consumed, the reptiles that we know, even for instance the lizards, when their tail is cut, they have the ability for their tail to be grown again, unlike us. So it's because of the ambrosia is what many scholars say. Let's keep that aside. Now, Garuda and his mother Vinata were relieved of slavery because the idea was to bring the Amritam back, and that was brought. You'll be surprised. Why should Vyasa, who has been writing a compendium of Pandava and Kaurava's lives in Mahabharatam, deploy a story of Garuda in it? Because Garuda Upakhyanam, this narration of Garuda's life history, is a mini Mahabharatam. What happens in Mahabharatam? We have Pandavas on one side, the Kauravas on the other side. So the head of the Pandavas, called Yudhishthira, played the game of dice, and ideally on the other side, the head of the Kauravas, whose Duryodhana should have played. But what did Duryodhana intelligently do? He said, I have a pain in my hand, I've got spondylitis, so my uncle will play on my behalf. If that was the case, Yudhishthira could have also assigned the task to somebody who can play better. So there was cheating there. And then when everything was pawned, they wanted to humiliate Draupadi, and they asked Draupadi to come to the Sabha when she was in her menstruation, her period cycle, and they insulted her, humiliated her, molested her. So all this happened with Draupadi. So later, to get relieved of Kauravas and their adharma, Pandavas had to fight them on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Who was the charioteer to Arjuna? Krishna. And where is Garuda? In fact, he must have been on the flag. But since Hanuman had said, at least in Mahabharatam, give me the position in the flag post, the Lord said, hey Garuda, let you be possessed in these 4 horses that I am driving the chariot with. And when Arjuna refused to fight the battle, Krishna said, see, all these days you were speaking about valor and how to fight the war, and when you have to fight on the battlefield, you say that I can't fight. So I will bring the quintessence of Vedas, which tells that you're ordained to do your duty. So he explains Bhagavad Gita, which is the quintessence of the Upanishads. Sarvopanishado gavaha dugdha gopalandanaha partho vatsaha sudhir bhukta dugdham gitamritam mahat. So this Gitamrita was explained. So on the other side, like how we have seen Pandavas and Kauravas, we have the sons of Kadru, the snakes, who are many in number like Kauravas. And then we have Aruna and Garuda, who are the sons of Vinata, who are less in number like the Pandavas. So we have here that Vinata, Kadru duped Vinata in the challenge, and she enslaved her, like how the Kauravas enslaved the Pandavas. There we have, when Arjuna was confused, Gitamritam was given to relieve themselves of the slavery. Garuda had to fly and get the real Amritam. So here is Amrita, there is Gitamrita. Here there is the sons of Vinata and Kadru, the sons of Pandu and Dhritarashtra on the other side. Here is Garuda, there is the one who holds Garuda in his flag post, who's Krishna. Here are the snakes, on the other side is Duryodhana, whose flag post, the emblem was a snake. So look at the similarities what the life history of Pandavas and Kauravas had with that of Garuda and the snakes. So Vyasa wanted to give a mini Mahabharatam, a small form, a pilot project of Mahabharatam before he presents the larger Mahabharatam. So if you listen to Garuda Upakhyanam, many scholars and acharyas opine that you will get the phalam, the fruit of having listened to the entire Mahabharatam. Not that you should not be listening to Mahabharatam. I've spoken on Mahabharatam for hours together on the YouTube. Please do listen. But this is a verse which says, Yogo shatam kanakashungamayam dadati vipraya veda vidushecha bahushrutaya punyamscha bharata katham shruniyamscha nityam tulyam bhavati tasyacha tasyachaiva. So Garuda's position in Mahabharatam is just not restricted here. In Ramayanam, when Rama and Lakshmana are swooned because of the Nagastram, it is Garuda who flies from Vaikuntham to protect them. Vegodvela suvelaha kimidamitimito mantrito vanarendreihi maya manushya says Vedanta Deshika. It was Garuda who told Asamanjas and later Amshuman that it is only the waters of Ganga which can redeem the 60,000 sons Sagara of the curse of Kapila. Vainateya Gatif Para tells Aranya Kandam in Ramayana. In Krishnavataram, while Adisesha became the umbrella, the devotee of the Lord, Adisesha became the umbrella to the Lord while he was being carried from Mathura to Gokulam. It was Garuda who was flying high in the sky to protect Adisesha because he wanted to protect the devotee. Andal makes a mention of this. Pattimeindador kareru baladevarkor kilkannai ittirittu vilayadi inge boda kandire ittamana pashukkale inidu maridu neerutti vittukkondu vilayada vrindavanathai kandome. மேலால் பறந்து வெயில் காப்பான் வினதை சிறுவன் சிறகென்னும் மேலாப்பின் கீழ் வருவானை விருந்தாவனத்தை கண்டோமே. வினதை சிறுவன். Vinata is the name of the mother. Siruvan means the younger one, who's Garuda. Siragennum melappin kil varuvanai. The one who walks in the Vrindavanam is the one who walks in the shadow of Garuda, telling that he is Paramatma himself. Again, Vedanta Deshika tells the kind of services that Garuda renders. Vegottanam vitanam vyajanamanuguna vaijayanti jayanti mitram nityabhyamitram yudhi vijayaratho yugyairoganapekshah daso nishparyudaso danutanaya bhido nissahaya sahaya dodhuryetasmadiyam duritamadhirata tarati pakshai swapakshaihi. So we have Garuda's role, just not in Mahabharatam, but in Ramayanam, Bhagavatam and Vishnu Puranam too. And we don't have to talk about our acharyas. All our acharyas have spoken so highly of Garuda, and you'll be surprised when Mahasamprokshanam is performed for a temple after the Rajagopuram is built and the waters, the Vedic waters, the holy waters are poured on the kalashas at the top. I have noticed in India, I don't know about the US, whichever temple, wherever it happens, the Garuda bird will come and fly atop this particular event. It may seem like a coincidence. It may not seem like a miracle. But why should it happen for every Samprokshanam? I'm sure by God's grace, by the grace of Venkateswara Swami, Mahasamprokshanam will happen and Garuda will bless you all. So Vedanta Deshika has sung exclusively two works called Garuda Dandakam and Garuda Panchashat. Alvars make a mention. In fact, Venkateswara says Tyagaraja and Prahlada Bhakti Vijayam. So all our acharyas have sung. Why? Li Muthuswami Dikshitar, when he had to visit the beautiful temple of Varadaraja Swami in Kanchipuram, which is known for its Garuda Seva, he says, Neelame Ghajita Shariram Niratishayanandakaram Kanchi Nagara Viharam Kali Rakshita Choram Kalidosha Haratitha Prabhava Guru Guhadinatam Kapila Shukadi Sanuta Garuda Vaharudham Varadaraja Vanajasanadi Puji Tam Varadaraja So he says, Garuda Vahadi Rudham, the one who flies atop the Garuda. So the Garuda Seva in a temple, the Garuda Dhwajam, the blessing of Garuda on a Rajagopuram during Samprokshanam, Garuda in Mahabharatam, Ramayanam, Bhagavatam, Vishnu Puranam, Garuda in the works of the Alvars and Acharyas. Garuda holds an extremely important position. And on this auspicious day of Garuda Panchami, let us all pray that the world should get rid of this pandemic that has crippled humanity. We as human beings should solemnly pledge that we will be more responsible towards our society and to the nature in the months and years and the days to come. And let us all pray that this beautiful, holy project of Mahasamprokshanam with the Rajagopuram building in our very beautifully present temple of Lord Sri Venkateswara Swami in Cary, North Carolina should be very, very successful. I'm thankful to the organizers, the members of the board, and the priests in the temple, and especially to Sriman Srini Rajagopal and his family, for under whose behest I've spoken this lecture. Any mistakes from my side, please forgive me. Ajnaninam ayadoshan aseshan vihitan hare kshamasvatvam seshashaila shikamane kavitarkika simhaya kalyana gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha.
Wow, what a wonderful discourse. I hope all of you enjoyed it. We thank Sri Dushyanth Sridhar ji for delivering such a wonderful discourse during this pandemic. We also would like to thank our volunteers, devotees, temple management, and especially the communication team for putting together this wonderful discourse. Thank you. Happy Garuda Panchami. Lord bless you all.